Have you ever wondered if your relationship has turned toxic? How would you know? Unfortunately, it's not always easy to recognize toxic patterns when you are smack dab in the middle of them. And of course, every relationship involves boundary negotiations and clashes. But some behaviors that ultimately become toxic can look healthy initially, as long as it's not a recurring or extreme behavior. So how do you know where the line is? Well, today I'm going to share a clip from a live stream event that I shared with my online students, in which we discuss 6 signs of a toxic relationship and how to spot them, 6 tips on how to implement healthy and secure boundaries and behaviors instead, how your attachment style can either help or hinder you in deciding whether you're going to stick it out or let it go. By the end of this video, you will have received all the tools necessary to spot a toxic pattern before it starts, create the possibility for healing in your relationship or for healing yourself well enough to leave it, and to know if you should stick it out or call it quits. You are not going to want to miss this one. Now, if you are new to my channel, welcome. My name is Briana MacWilliam, and I am a licensed and board-certified creative arts therapist with more than 15 years in the field, helping adults struggling with insecure attachment go from self-doubting to self-sovereign so they can attract the soul-shaking, passionate partnerships that they want. And I do this using a psycho-spiritual approach to creative arts interventions, which I call the MacWilliam method. The content on my YouTube channel is derived from my online courses, which you can learn more about through the link in the caption of this video. If you would like to learn more about your attachment style, you can take the 4-question quiz. If you like what you see and hear and you want to learn more, make sure you like, subscribe, and ring the bell for notifications. I put up videos once a week, and I wouldn't want you to miss out. Okay, so let's dive into our topic for today. Now, most people unconsciously test their partners at some point to see how they will react in different situations. And this behavior is about discovering if the relationship really has long-term potential. It's also a sign that we are actually getting more emotionally involved with someone. And to a certain degree, this is using your discernment or your good judgment to test your partner's mettle. Are they going to remain true to their values, their beliefs, and their priorities over time? Or are they just kind of blowing smoke up your you-know-what? But at some point, that behavior can cross over from curious and a gentle probing to things like domination, manipulation, and an abusive disregard for a partner's autonomy. So today, we're going to explore these 6 signs of toxicity and how to implement healthy and secure boundaries and behaviors instead, so that you can create the possibility for healing in your relationship or for healing yourself well enough to leave it for good, if that is what will serve you. Okay. So the first sign is disagreements become an excuse for disrespect. Now, every relationship is going to have moments of strain and disagreement, of course, but a healthy relationship will confront these issues with love and respect. So disagreements are not an excuse to be disrespectful or abusive or hit below the belt. There is never a justification for tearing down someone's character, manipulating a partner's emotions, criticizing without cause, or purposefully wounding a partner to assert some sense of control over them. Now, you know you are being disrespected when someone screams at you, calls you names, aggressively or violently touches you, or throws things around you or around the room. It's also disrespectful to try and emotionally hurt you by bringing up deeply personal and painful memories or experiences that you shared with them in confidence, and then use it like ammunition against you in an argument. Enlisting other friends and family to side against you, either directly or indirectly, like through slandering you on social media or in chat groups, is another way of controlling you through disrespect. Or maybe they try to ice you out with complete withdrawal and abandonment, intentionally sabotaging you by not responding to your requests to figure out, let's say, logistical things that you share and that are unrelated to the argument. Like, okay, we're mad at each other, but who's going to pick up the kids or take the car to the shop to get fixed or pick up the groceries for dinner? Okay, so how might you handle arguments in a healthier way? Well, this is the first tip. Realize that disagreements can deepen intimacy rather than destroy it. So when you are in a healthy relationship, a partner might raise their voice, but they're not going to attack you personally. They're going to stick to the relevant topic. In a healthy relationship, a partner might need to take some space to cool down, but they will tell you how much and when you can expect them to contact you again. They won't disappear without warning and try to induce anxious feelings as a way to punish you and assume disproportionate power over the relationship. Okay. Healthy, secure partners also recognize that disagreements are an opportunity for deepening the intimacy between you because it makes both of you aware of what needs might have to be acknowledged and met in the relationship in order for it to grow. Now, during a healthy repair after an argument, as you witness your partner listening, adjusting, and then making changes to prioritize your needs just as much, no more or no less than their own, you will feel like you are being seen, accepted, and loved even more for who you are and what you are really feeling and wanting. And that deepens the intimacy and the authentic connection between you. Okay, sign number 2. The relationship makes you feel unworthy, scared, or less than. Now, if the relationship that you are in makes you feel like you are always doing something wrong, or like you have to earn your partner's love, respect, and approval in order not to lose their interest or be abandoned or rejected or criticized, that is a clear sign that you are in a toxic relationship. So, for example, a gray area between healthy and toxic behavior is banter and testing a partner's limits when it comes to things like teasing and sarcasm. Now, if the banter becomes demeaning or it makes you feel unworthy or degraded, then it has clearly crossed the line into toxic behavior. Even if the person says, "Oh, I didn't mean it that way. You're too sensitive. You're taking things too seriously." It doesn't matter. How you feel is what matters. And if they disrespect you after you've articulated how you feel, that's toxic. So the tip here is to keep your limiting beliefs in check and to avoid falling down the validation trap. So constantly feeling scared, unloved, or unworthy can be a result of limiting beliefs that live beneath the surface of our conscious awareness. They compel us to endlessly seek validation from the outside world for the right to have your feelings and your needs. And I call this the validation trap. So individuals with insecure attachment styles, they often fall into this trap, particularly anxious open hearts and disorganized or fearful avoidant folks, for example. So they might harbor beliefs like, I have to work hard to have a functional relationship. If I stop trying, initiating, or doing everything first, nothing happens or would get done. If I'm not earning love, then it's not true love. If my partner doesn't suffer for me as much as I suffer for them, then they don't really love me. I'll never find love unless I fix myself first. So lose weight, find a better paying job, become more spiritually enlightened, etc. I always love my partners more than they love me. I'm not allowed to have needs or desires in a relationship because it always pushes my partner away. I always give more than I receive, and that's just the way it is. If you love someone unconditionally, then eventually they'll come around, and there's a lot of confusion about what unconditional love is. In the end, people will settle because it's better than being alone. Okay. So do you find yourself in a relationship where those insecurities and limiting beliefs come alive and they are amplified between you and your partner? Then that can be a toxic relationship sign. And it's an important indication that it is time to ask some really deep self-reflective questions about how well you are loving and accepting yourself just as you are. It might also mean that you are susceptible to particularly aggressive, manipulative partners because you tend to wear your heart on your sleeve. Because this is the thing. In a healthy relationship, self-inquiry for the purposes of personal growth is supported and it's encouraged. In a toxic relationship, personal growth is criticized and discouraged because it's threatening to a controlling partner because it is likely to dismantle the painful, dysfunctional patterns that exist between you, right? And keep them in power. So here's the third sign. You don't feel fully safe to be yourself, okay? So healthy, securely attached relationships bring out the best in both partners so that everyone feels safe and free enough to be fully themselves without judgment or disdain. So you shouldn't need to constantly second guess yourself or your actions, feeling like you have to jump through hoops or walk on eggshells to conform to someone else's idea of who you should be and what you should be doing. Equally, You shouldn't feel like you need to call every friend and family member in the book in order to determine if every thought, feeling, or action that you wish to take is right or wrong. Okay. A healthy relationship will support your sense of what I call self-sovereignty and challenge you in ways that help you expand more fully into felt security, not to knock you off your center and make you feel increasingly insecure and ungrounded. But how will you know when you are feeling more secure and thus more fully yourself? So this is the third tip. You're going to adopt a self-sovereign attitude. Okay. Now, to explain this, I'm going to offer a few traits of secure attachment. And this is what I define as adopting an attitude of self-sovereignty. So you are free from safety concerns in the relationship. You can name and prioritize your own values. You can identify and name your emotional boundaries and what does and does not feel good to you. You have some awareness of your own defensive coping mechanisms and how they are impacting your communication and relationships. You have an ability to identify and name complex internal feeling states. So most of us are more than just happy or sad. We feel excited, nervous, anticipatory, bubbly, challenged, exhilarated, and a little insecure all at the same time. You have confidence in your own decision-making abilities, and you don't need to affirm your every course of action with other people's opinions. You have an increased ability to tolerate formally triggering situations without resorting to acting out in anger or in a self-sabotaging way. You assume there are many possibilities and opportunities for love in the world, and you are a lovable person who has every chance of meeting any number of healthy and compatible partners out there. Now, once you adopt an attitude of self-sovereignty, you stop worrying about whether or not you're doing things right or wrong, and you start assessing if the people, places, and things in your environments are serving your best interests. So the stone does not justify its stillness. The wave doesn't justify its right to crash against the shore, and you do not need to justify your self-expression. Okay, so I want to pause there for a minute. And before we go on, I would like to just ask, do you recognize any of these three signs in your relationship so far? How are disagreements usually handled in your relationship? Do you feel fearful of criticism or rejection or abandonment? What would it mean for you to fully realize yourself in this relationship? So I'd love for you to give me a like or a comment with your experiences in the comments there so that I know that I'm on the right track here. So I want us to continue with our next three signs. So sign number 4, your boundaries are ignored or invaded upon. So if the relationship is healthy, your partner respects your boundaries when you set them. Having boundaries simply means that you respect the other person's right to their own feelings and autonomy, and you acknowledge that their reality and their experience may be different from your own. And yet it is equally as valid and as important as yours. So you also realize that two different realities and experiences, they can exist harmoniously in a loving relationship where it is safe to honestly communicate and negotiate your needs. It also means recognizing that while you would like to contribute to your partner's happiness, you aren't entirely responsible for it. So people in toxic relationships fail to recognize boundaries. They have either too loose boundaries, choose not to honor their own boundaries, choose not to respect a partner's boundaries, or have boundaries that are too rigid and thus fragile. So every no leads to an argument, or you have to restate those boundaries over and over and over again, right? So how do we correct that? Well, this is tip number 4. You want to know your boundaries and state them out loud with clarity and with specificity. So as with all toxic behaviors, there are behaviors that don't start out as toxic, but can become so. So for example, let's say that a potential partner that you are dating is a really big texter, okay? And you're not. Are they toxic if they text you again after you tell them, hey, I'm not a big texter? Well, in this case, it's kind of hard to tell because you didn't offer any clarity or specificity to that statement. So for someone who texts a lot, waiting 4 hours before texting you again might feel like an eternity. and demonstrate a great show of respect for your boundaries. But if you tell them, hey, I'm not a big texter, and I especially don't like texting while at work, I can message you in the morning or in the evening after I get off to confirm our plans. Well, now you have added clarity and specificity to your boundary regarding texting as a communication method. And they know how to respect or not respect that boundary. If they then ignore what you say and blow up your phone throughout the day, then you can take that as a red flag that they are probably prone to toxic behavior, specifically ignoring your boundaries. Sign number 5, your partner avoids you or smothers you with love. Now, on one end of the spectrum, your partner can feel distant and like they're always turning you down. If you are an anxious open heart, you're likely to feel this way if your partner's more of an avoidant rolling stone. Now, on the other end of the spectrum, you might feel like your partner is smothering you with love without giving you any space. If you're an avoidant rolling stone, you're likely to feel this way if your partner is more of an anxious open heart. Now, a healthy relationship is both mutual and it leaves space for you to, as an individual, have your own needs and interests. So you shouldn't feel like you have to chase your partner, but you also shouldn't feel like you are trapped in your relationship. So this is tip number 5. You want to get clear on your values and your priorities in a relationship and practice vicarious introspection. So when our attachment styles orient us to wanting more emotional closeness or distance in love, it's important to get crystal clear on what needs you have that come from a fear-based place of survival mode, which is the stimulation of your attachment system, okay, and which needs actually stem from when you are inhabiting a place of peace and harmony in your inner world. The needs that stem from peace and harmony are arguably expressions of your authentic values and priorities in love. These are dimensions against which you can determine the real compatibility between you and your partner. Seeing past a need originating from a triggered attachment response requires a practice of what's called vicarious introspection. And this is a term coined by self-psychologist Heinz Kohut. And this means that you are able to understand and empathize with your partner's needs and feelings from their perspective. So this helps you bypass defensive criticisms that can come up when your partner doesn't behave the way you want them to, and to realize that they are not trying to hurt you or withdraw their love from you. Once you realize that, then genuine need negotiations in a truly compatible situation are possible. Of course, you might also realize that they are not on the level with you. And you know what? That's really good information too. Okay, so this is the 6th sign. You constantly feel guilty and or you are questioning yourself. So questioning your assumptions is usually a good practice in self-reflection. But if you find yourself questioning your perceptions of reality itself to the point where you are starting to feel a little crazy, then there's a problem. If you're always made to second guess yourself, there's a big chance that your relationship isn't all that healthy. In fact, some very toxic behavior includes things like gaslighting, which is when you are made to question your reality by partners who refuse to validate your perceptions and experiences and demonstrate discrepancies between their words and actions. So this category of toxic behavior also includes passive-aggressive behavior. For example, your partner might demand that you give them emotional support without them ever having told you that they need it. When you naturally fail to understand what they want and need, they become angry and aggressive towards you, laying on the guilt. Healthy relationships require both partners to take responsibility for their own emotions and actions, and they ask for emotional support when they need it with clarity and with specificity. So this is my 6th tip. You want to maintain a support network and a community outside of your romantic relationship. So the best way to gain an outside perspective is to access a support network with multiple people that love you, that respect you, and really want the best for you. Even if you are in a healthy relationship, it is still crucial to continue engaging with your own friends, family, coworkers, healthcare providers, spiritual advisors, community members, in order to keep your individual passions alive, so you can show up to that relationship as your most authentic and vital self. It's also important to note that if your partner appears threatened by your support network and systematically attempts to isolate you from it. That is a toxic behavior, usually aimed at exerting maximum control and can lead to abuses down the line. Do not give in to that. Hold your boundaries and let them be upset about it. In the end, they'll either respect you more and they will learn to prioritize your needs as much as their own, or they will remove themselves from your life and get out of your way. And when that happens, the best thing you can do is let them go. Now, if you're struggling here, I want to offer 7 questions to help you determine if you should stay or go in a relationship. So the first question is, does this person contribute to a sense of meaning and purpose in your life? Number 2, when you're with them, do you feel hopeful and optimistic that the relationship will deepen with a sense of intimacy and connection over time? Or do you feel like you might be settling and sacrificing some of your needs to stay in it and please them? Number 3, when you're with them, do you feel totally comfortable, safe, and free to express your needs and expect that they will be well received and reasonable measures will be met to get them met? Number 4, do you feel like your partner contributes to the relationship and to your happiness without expectation of some kind of reward? They really just love to see you happy. Or do you feel like there's kind of a scoreboard hovering above the relationship? Number 5, do you find yourself overly preoccupied or experiencing a need to question every communication and do a lot of reality checking with your friends because you're confused about the meanings of your partner's words or behaviors because they don't match up? Number 6, do you feel a natural and playful flow of communication in your relationship and you feel like you can be creative and there's a sense of ease with lots of laughter and exploration? Or does it feel like the energy is very constricted and there's lots of walking on eggshells? Number 7, does your partner make you feel like you are the most attractive, sexy, and desirable person they could ever want? They could never hold you in comparison to some irrelevant standard of beauty or of attractiveness, and they love you for just the way you are? Or do you feel like you are always being held in comparison to some standard of attractiveness and just not good enough for them? Now, if you answered in the negative to the majority of these questions, I would really have you think long and hard about remaining in this relationship. When we feel confused and self-doubting, it's often because our brain and body is in survival mode. Your attachment impulses and needs are deeply tied to your nervous system and your limbic brain, which is your survival brain. If you perceive a threat in your attachment relationship to your romantic partner, this can throw you into survival mode. And that can compel you to do things that you might not otherwise do to try to eliminate that threat. That means it's really important to attend to your need for mental, emotional, and physical safety before you can truly access your intuition. The survival mode alarm will be loud and unavoidable and likely very uncomfortable until you can find physical calm and an equilibrium. Once you do that, your intuition has room to emerge. And this will be more like a whisper, a gentle nudge, or a quiet suggestion. It will look like a dream or a desire to draw and write in your journal. It might show up as a coincidence or an old friend calling you out of the blue, or a particular sensation in your body, maybe an unexpected invitation, a strange craving, and so on. Now, it's important to find this place of calm and equilibrium so you can prioritize your own innate wisdom on whether or not this relationship is serving you. Because the truth is, a relationship doesn't have to be toxic to just not be the best fit for you anymore. And it's important to know the difference there as well. Now, if you are feeling confused and you are doubting yourself and your own judgment and discernment, I invite you to take a step back and ask, is that how you really want to feel in relationships? Confused and doubting? And if not, how would you like to feel instead? Let that be the barometer for your next inspired action step, whether you decide to take that with this partner or you decide it is a journey that you have to take on your own. Now, to learn more about attachment styles in toxic relationships and survival mode, I recommend watching the following videos: Brain Chemistry and Frustration Attraction, Is It My Intuition or Survival Mode? 7 questions to tell the difference. Red Flags or Healthy Boundary Testing, How to Know the Difference. I hope you've enjoyed today's video and that you'll join me again next week.